All right, so we have had a ton of requests to do a deep dive on Art Spiegelman's Malsum Search. And honestly, with all the buzz, it's got to be good, right? Like, is this something you actually need to read?
Okay, straight up, yes.
Yeah.
Especially if you're even remotely interested in World War II memoirs or graphic novels.
See, that's what kind of throws me off. A graphic novel about the Holocaust just feels kind of odd. Like, is that really the right format for such a heavy topic?
That's exactly what makes it so powerful. Spiegelman uses the graphic novel format to its advantage, creating a reading experience you just wouldn't get from a traditional book. It's raw, it's intimate, and it hits you on like a visceral level.
Yeah, I could already hear some folks out there thinking, mice, cats, pigs. Isn't that kind of trivializing what happened?
Not at all. It's a very deliberate choice that adds layers of meaning. The animal metaphor forces us to confront the way that the Nazis dehumanized the Jews, making it easier to justify their horrific actions.
Okay, so one of the things that jumped out from the reviews was how Maoist weaves past and present. Is that what makes it stand out from other Holocaust stories?
Absolutely. We're not just getting a historical account of the Holocaust.
Right.
Spiegelman masterfully interweaves his father Vladek's experiences in Nazi-occupied Poland with their present-day relationship in 1980s New York.
So we see how the trauma of the past continues into the present.
Exactly.
And it's Vladek's story that really seems to grip readers.
Yeah.
One reviewer even said that Maoist is not just another Holocaust story because of him.
Yeah.
What makes him so compelling?
He's not your typical hero.
Oh.
Vladek is flawed, complicated, even frustrating at times. He's described as being irritating, manipulative, and even bigoted.
Wow.
But that's what makes him so human, so real. He's a survivor. But the experience has clearly left its mark.
It almost sounds like the book is as much about this difficult father-son relationship as it is about the Holocaust.
That's a great point. The tension between Art and Vladek adds another layer of complexity. We see Art struggling to understand his father and Vladek grappling with the ghosts of his past.
Right.
It's messy, it's raw, and it's incredibly powerful. And that's kind of what brings the Holocaust to life in a way that straight history books often can't. You're experiencing it through Vladek's eyes, seeing the fear, the desperation, the constant struggle for survival.
Right.
It's no longer just dates and statistics, but the very real experiences of a human being.
Some of the reviews we saw mentioned how the artwork in Maoist really helps bring the story to life. One reviewer, Elliot, specifically mentioned how the detailed artwork helped him connect with the story on a deeper level.
Absolutely. Spiegelman's art style is deceptively simple, but incredibly effective. The black and white palette adds to the starkness and bleakness of the setting. And even though he uses these simplified animal figures, he manages to convey so much emotion and depth in their expressions.
Yeah, Elliot did mention that he wasn't a fan of the thick lines, though.
Yeah.
He felt like they sometimes obscured the details.
Yeah, I can see that. It's definitely a stylistic choice, and some readers might find it distracting.
Right.
But personally, I think the thick lines contribute to the overall rawness and intensity of the book. And the way he uses animal masks to depict Jews hiding his poles, that's a stroke of genius.
Right. That was a clever detail that really stood out. Elliot also pointed out how authentic the dialogue feels, like you're actually listening in on conversations.
Yeah.
He even joked that he started thinking like an old Brooklyn Jew after reading it.
That's part of what makes Maoist so immersive.
Yeah.
You're not just reading about history, you're experiencing it through the characters' voices.
It all sounds pretty intense, though. Is it too heavy, too depressing? Like, are you going to need a box of tissues after reading this thing?
It's definitely heavy material. No sugarcoating that deals with genocide, loss, trauma.
Yeah.
But there's also hope woven throughout the narrative. You see Vladek's resilience, his love for his wife Anja, his determination to survive. It's about the strength of the human spirit, even in the face of unimaginable horror.
And speaking of difficult topics, we can't ignore the controversies surrounding myopes being banned in some schools. Why do you think this book in particular has become such a target?
It's ironic, isn't it? A book about censorship and oppression being censored itself. I think it comes down to people being uncomfortable with facing difficult history, with acknowledging the darkest parts of humanity.
That brings up an interesting point. Right. We've talked about the animal metaphor, but some critics have argued that depicting different ethnicities as animals is problematic, that it could perpetuate stereotypes. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a valid concern, and it's a conversation worth having.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Spiegelman uses the animal metaphor very intentionally to force us to confront the dangers of dehumanization by stripping away individual identities and reducing people to animals.
Right.
He highlights how easy it becomes to justify prejudice and violence.
Hmm.
Remember, the Nazis didn't start by rounding people up and sending them to gas chambers. It started with propaganda, with labeling certain groups as less than human.
You're right. It's that gradual escalation that's so chilling.
Yeah.
And Malice really captures that slippery slope.
Exactly. And it makes you think about how those same patterns of prejudice and dehumanization can still manifest in our world today, maybe in more subtle ways.
So we've covered a lot about Malice, but is it truly a book everyone should read? Is it worth adding to the ever-growing to-read pile?
While it's not a light read, I'd argue that Malice is essential reading for anyone who wants to understand the human impact of historical events, explore complex family dynamics, or experience the power of graphic novels to tell challenging stories. And remember, this is just the first volume, Malice II continues Vladek's story,
All right.
delving even deeper into the trauma of Auschwitz and the lasting impact of the Holocaust on his life.
Now you got me hooked. It sounds like one of those books that stays with you long after you finish it.
Oh, absolutely. And the way Spiegelman leaves us hanging at the end of Malice Asai, it's a brilliant setup for the even more emotionally gripping sequel.
Ooh, cliffhanger. So for our listener, if this deep dive has piqued your interest, what's the best way to experience Matthias for the first time? Should they jump right in?
You know, sometimes with graphic novels, it's good to get a feel for the art style first.
Right?
You can usually find some excerpts online or pop into a bookstore and flip through the pages.
Sure.
That way you can see if Spiegelman's unique style clicks for you.
I think we've explored some pretty heavy stuff today, but in a good way. We've really unpacked what makes Matthias such a powerful and thought-provoking book.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating dive, and I think we've only just scratched the surface. Like any great work of art, Matthias offers something new with each reading.
You know, thinking back to everything we've discussed, one question keeps kind of nagging at me. If Vladek survived the Holocaust, why is the subtitle of Matthias II, and Here My Troubles Began?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It hints at the fact that survival is just the beginning of another journey, one filled with its own unique challenges and complexities.
It makes you wonder, what does survival really mean after experiencing something as horrific as the Holocaust? How do you ever truly move on?
Exactly. And I think that's a question that resonates with readers long after they finish the book. It's a testament to Spiegelman's storytelling that he leaves us with these lingering questions, these unresolved tensions.
So for our listener, if you're looking for a book that will challenge you, move you, and stay with you long after you turn the last page, Matthias is definitely worth your time.
And if you're still on the fence, I encourage you to at least check out some excerpts online or flip through a copy at your local bookstore. Spiegelman's art style is unique, and it might not be for everyone, but the story he tells is one that deserves to be heard.
Couldn't agree more. So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep. Until next time.